Welcome back to another episode on Chamba Sports, but this one's for the girlies. I'm so excited because this is a girls' podcast today. We are here with another girly in the sports industry, and you guys know that sometimes I get a little overwhelmed because there's so many men in this industry, but with me being here with Chamba Sports and my special guest who plays a big part in the sports industry, we're excited to showcase some of our own skills to you guys, especially to you girlies, that you can be a woman in sports. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and let my guest introduce herself.
Hi, my name is O'zie Sagbohan. I'm from Bakersfield, California, so I'm a local. I went to school up at UC Berkeley, and I can't wait to talk to you a little bit more about my journey just growing up here in Bakersfield and how I got to where I am today.
You ready?
Yeah.
Yeah, you excited? Okay. So we met a couple months ago, and
Yeah.
I was so excited to learn that there was another girl that was in sports, and especially in Bakersfield. For a lot of you that don't know, this industry can sometimes be a little bit overwhelming, a little bit hard to even swallow to want to even get into the industry. But I think once we're in it, I think there's no going back, right?
Yeah. Super
So
rewarding.
let's talk about a little bit about your story and how just your background.
Yeah, so like I mentioned, I'm from Bakersfield. I feel like growing up here really molded. Of course, where you grow up molds your personality and molds who you are to a certain extent. I was kind of like a rough kid, kind of tomboyish. I played with the boys. I love sports. I love running around. And so I feel like there was early signs that I would be working in sports. I just loved that environment when I was younger. I feel like part of my experience had a lot to do with school growing up and how it was treated in the classroom or how I was treated by friends. I had a lot of issues growing up with like my own identity and just like being Black in a predominantly white town. I feel like that helped mold my character. I had I had good and bad teachers, so I don't want to say it was all bad teachers or bad experiences. I did have some teachers growing up who really pushed me and kind of fueled the fire, so to speak, in me. That really helped me. So I cannot underestimate the power of a teacher. Like, teachers can really change children's lives. So I do want to start out by saying that. I did have a particular 7th grade experience, though.
Yeah, and let's talk about that because
Yeah.
I think when we met, you kind of shared a little bit with me about that experience, and then we all kind of have that like those experiences that kind of mold us right into like, okay, now that's not who I am. That's not who you think that I am. So this is gonna help me.
Yeah.
And with that, you grew into that experience and you learned from it. So tell us a little bit about what that experience was and then what kind of motivate you or molded you to become now who you are.
Yeah, so I would say this is 7th grade, so I'm 12, 13 years old. I would say this is my first experience with like prejudice, so to speak, like blatant prejudice or blatant racism, so to speak. I was in the classroom with my friend. There was 2 other Black girls in the class. They didn't like each other. I was friends with both of them. They didn't like each other. We were watching a movie one day in class, so the lights were off. They're sitting a couple rows in front of me, like arguing back and forth. My teacher kicks us all out of the class. And I'm like, what did I do? And everyone's all confused looking around like, Ozzy's sitting all the way back there. What did she do? She literally said guilty by association. Those are the words that she uttered to me. So I think being like a 12, 13-year-old, like being a kid and just, I'll never forget that because it hit me like a ton of bricks. Like, is this the world I'm living in? Is this the experiences that I'm going to have? So I feel like really early on, I learned a tough lesson. I will say that experience made me have to learn how to be comfortable in my own skin in those spaces because I know I'm going to be in spaces where I'm not always accepted. So I wouldn't take that experience back because honestly, I learned younger to have really tough skin and be confident in who I was in those spaces and shout out to my parents, because I feel like without my parents instilling in me like my abilities and instilling confidence in me, I wouldn't have had the strength to overcome those experiences. So, it was unfortunate that I experienced that, but again, I wouldn't trade that experience, because it was things like that that helped shape me into being comfortable in my skin in these spaces.
I think it's really important too, even as like for the younger generation and all you girlies who want to pursue something, anything. It doesn't have to be sports, but if experiences like that scar you, they're not always for a bad reason.
Yeah.
And that's one of those things that I always say too. Like I have my own experiences and I don't take them anymore. Yes, before they used to be like scars, but now we have to push through it and we have to be a little bit more focused on the bigger picture and know that those like particular experiences are the only thing that's making us grow, and they're helping us to grow and become this better version of ourselves, of who we're going to be, but also who we are at this moment, because we have to love who we are.
Exactly, yeah. And like I mentioned, like education plays like a really big role in like who I am. So I feel like after that 7th grade experience, I remember even my teacher telling me like, oh, maybe you should move down a reading level, even though I was testing at a college reading level in 7th grade. But then the next year, my 8th grade English teacher, she was so encouraging. That's why I'm like, the importance of teachers in my life, honestly, like that was the pick-me-up I needed after the experience I had had. She encouraged me to do speech and debate in high school, and she was telling me how good of a writer I was, and I just really blossomed after that. And I knew after that I could accomplish anything I wanted. So, high school, I did everything I set out to do. And I got into UC Berkeley, which...
you guys know that's hard. So props, because, yeah.
Yeah, so I would say, like, it takes a village. So the people around me helped me get to that point in my life. High school had its ups and downs. Like, I experienced things from friends, and, I may have been the only Black girl in a classroom. But again, like, those experiences made me tough. I'm used to being the only one that looks like me in a space. That's why I'm not uncomfortable with it anymore, because I've experienced that my whole life. So I think having endured that, going to Berkeley, I think that was another challenge in my life. I always tell people Berkeley was the best of times and the worst of times. That's how I describe it. So, and yeah, I could talk about that a little bit more too. But
yeah, I mean, share a little bit about Berkeley, because I mean, and that's just like anyone in Bakersfield too, who goes off to go to school or goes to like these Ivy League schools like Berkeley. Like, tell us a little bit about that experience. What do we want to tell them? What do we want the next generation of athletes and, future sports agents to know?
So, funny side story. I mean, Bakersfield's not a small town by any means. It has lots of people, but it's kind of small town vibe. So I feel like, especially in high school, I just knew I did not want to go to school here. No offense. I love Bakersfield. That's why I'm back now. But but I knew I wanted to grow, and I knew I wasn't going to grow as much as I wanted to staying here, and I needed some experience somewhere else, because I feel like I had a little bit of a sheltered upbringing, which I will get to later also in my college experience. But so funny side story, I actually did not apply to CSUB in BC, and it made everyone around me upset. They were like, you need a backup school, And I was like, I have no backup school. I'm applying to all these hard schools, UCLA, Stanford, Berkeley, UC San Diego. I had no backup plan. So I was like, I just had the belief in myself that I was going to get into one of those schools. I did not apply to a Bakersfield school because I didn't want that to be an option. So that's where my mind was. So going to Berkeley, my first year I lived on an all-black floor. It was called Afro Floor. So I was living with other Black students, and I was I was going into it so excited because I'm like, these are Black scholars, like these are going to be like-minded people. And even within that space, because I grew up in Bakersfield, I didn't grow up like in LA, or I didn't grow up I didn't grow up in a tough environment.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't grow up in the hood. I didn't grow up rough. I had, again, pretty sheltered upbringing, so to speak. And I feel like that affected the way my own community looked at me. And so that was another struggle in my adult life. Like, how do I overcome this feeling of not fitting in? Like, I grew up feeling like I didn't fit in already where I was from. I'm going into this space thinking I'm going to meet like-minded people. And then I ran into that wall again of like, okay, like, I know I didn't grow up a certain way, but that doesn't make me any less me.
Yeah.
Doesn't make me any less of like who I am. So again, was like another chapter of growth and learning how to be comfortable in my skin again. I thought I was, but then I ran into that wall and I let it severely affect my experiences in college. And so I struggled a lot with my identity. I struggled a lot with what I wanted to do and just being comfortable, just showing up and having confidence. I think confidence is underrated, especially in women. I feel like a lot of women feel like they have to shrink themselves in spaces in order to fit in.
Oh, definitely.
And I really found myself struggling with that, shrinking myself, feeling anxious, just being in spaces and being who I am. But I think that college experience, again, gave me another layer of thick skin, like, okay, true confidence is your ability to walk into any room and know who you are. And so I had to learn that lesson over and over and over again. Still working on it. And, it's still an ongoing thing. But I think those experiences brought me closer to being comfortable with who I am.
I'll give you a little tip and something that I've read. It's a book called Self-Worth. So there's a difference between confidence and self-worth, right? Confidence is what and how we walk into a room, right? We're confident in how, but self-worth is what we value ourselves as. So next time you start thinking about confidence, switch that confidence mentality and think about it as self-worth. What do you think you're worth? And walk in as what you think you're worth into that door. So take that with you.
Got you. Okay.
It's different. It's a little different.
Yeah.
I think, especially being a woman in different spaces that, the color of our skin, how we look, how we present ourselves, same thing. I didn't grow up like in I was a little more sheltered, but I went through experiences. So it was a little different for me as well. But when you don't feel like you fit in, and sometimes that still happens, you get that imposter syndrome. I get it all the time, guys. I sure do. There's imposter syndrome all the time because you feel like you can get to a certain level, and then you get to that level, and then that imposter syndrome just comes and breaks you down.
Yes.
It breaks you down because you don't feel like you're worth that. So you got to bring in that self-worth and remember who you are and say, no, that is my self-worth because I created myself. I worked for this, and that is what I'm worth of. Yeah.
Yeah, the imposter syndrome. I wrote that down in my notes. I wanted to hit that point because I feel like throughout my life, the imposter syndrome affected the way I absorbed the present moment and absorbed my experiences. And reflecting on that as a growing adult, I look back at certain experiences and I'm like, dang, I wish I would have just been more present and not so in my head about I don't deserve to be here, or I don't think I should be in this space, or I don't fit at this table. Like, those thoughts would be going through my head, and no regrets, because I learned from that. So going into my professional career, I keep that in mind. Like, don't ever think you don't deserve an opportunity because you were there because of your work. Preparation needs opportunity with a dash of luck in there. So you never get anything by accident. And that's what that's the mantra that I've had to tell myself going into all of these spaces is nothing happens by accident.
That's good. Well, and nothing happens by accident. Now we can, let's go into a little bit of your career, because nothing does happen by accident. And you have some great career, stories that I hope you can share. But also, before we get into your career, tell everybody who's listening, what is the next move, so that they can understand what the career behind it kind of goes to.
Yeah, so I'll get into my backstory a little bit afterward. But my goal right now is to become an MBPA and FIBA certified agent So I'll be studying for those exams upcoming this year. Both exams are assessed next year, but I'll be studying for those this year. So that's the goal. So, I'm working on kind of like my marketing, networking, and just learning how to get into those spaces and, have confidence in myself. And because that's what you have to have as an agent. You have to sell what you're saying with conviction.
Yep.
Because people aren't going to work with you if they don't believe what you're saying.
Yeah.
So you have to learn how to make people believe what you're saying, but also be authentic. That's like one of the biggest things for me.
It's a very valuable skill to have. You got to be authentic.
Yeah.
But yes, I can't wait to see you as an agent by this year. So that's going to be exciting to see you as an NBA agent.
Yes.
Guys, anybody wants to go to the NBA, then you have an agent here locally. Okay, so tell us a little bit about your career, how you got to this point of wanting that for your career.
I think, again, like in college, I had switched majors 3 times. I think because as a student, I was just so academically focused. I think in my head, my career had to be like, lawyer, or computer scientist, or doctor, or just something of that ilk. And so I just focused on, let me just get a good job just because, let me just study something really hard and get a good job. But then I went to college during the pandemic. And so the pandemic hit my sophomore year of college, and 2020 and 2021 were probably some of the most difficult years in my life, just struggling with a lot of things. And in 2021, it was the summer after my junior year, it was like my last week of school. I had taken my last final, and I was sitting at home in my room. I had taken it on the computer because everything was remote because we were thick in the pandemic. I was sitting in my room, and I'm like, I'm not happy with what I'm doing. I literally will never forget this. I sat in my room. It was like, maybe 2, 3 p.m. And I'm like, what do I actually want to do? And I sat there for like 30 minutes, like just thinking, just blankly thinking, like, what do I like? What am I passionate about? What do I want to do? And throughout college up to that point, all my friends told me how they never hear me talk about anything but sports. All I would talk about is basketball, football, college football, like, WNBA. Like, all they heard me talk about was sports. So I was like, okay, I'm locked into my major at this point, so I'm not going to change it again. I'm just going to finish out. But I was like, what can I do to make this sports thing happen? So that day, after I thought for like 30 minutes, I literally did a search, sports opportunities near me. UCLA classes started popping up. And so I enrolled in a sports management summer class at UCLA that summer. I was like, let's get on it right now. So I enrolled for that class that day. It did cost some money. It wasn't free. So I had to convince my parents that I actually wanted to do this and that I wasn't kidding. I was like, guys, I need some money. I was like, hey. And so,
it happens. But they believe you, so it's okay. They believe in you.
And I think I kind of underestimated how supportive my parents would be in that transition. I think I was a little nervous because I know my parents wanted me to do something like, just be something great. But I think I did enough convincing that like I really, really wanted to do this. And so I enrolled in the class that day. And then I'm a big believer in God. And so the very next day, someone who I had met once my freshman year posted on their Instagram about this opportunity that the 49ers have to mentor high school and college students. So when I saw that, I DM'd him. I'm like, hey, what's this program? Like, I want to be mentored by their front office staff. Like, how do I apply? And so I applied for that. And I think that was a life-changing moment. Like, how I just thought to myself, like, how all the dots connected in that moment was just like, couldn't have been anything but God. Yeah. And so I was getting all the signs like, okay, let's do this. And so it was called the Mentoring Opportunity League. And the 49ers collabed with that organization to mentor high school and college students.
Wow.
And so I applied. I was one of the older students in the program because I was heading into my senior year, but I was like, you know what? It's okay. It's not too late. So I'm going to go into this space. and get as much out of it as I can. And so I was actually the age of the coaches on the team. So
wow.
I was connecting with the and I say coaches as in the mentorship coaches, not the 49er staff.
Yeah.
So we had mentorship coaches and we had groups. And so I was the age of the coaches. And so I was talking to them more than the mentees. And they were like, yeah, like whatever you need. And so one day we were on a trip to the 49er stadium because we would meet with their staff once a month. Okay. And they would help mentor us and we would go through activities. One day I just mentioned on the bus randomly, like, oh, hey, yeah, I applied for this Warriors basketball operations internship. And then someone was like, oh, I know a coach on the Warriors. Like, maybe I can meet up with him and talk to him about you and see if I can get you guys connected. Mm-hmm. So I was like, I mean, I would love that. Because at this point, the only sports experience I had was at UCLA class. Yeah. I have no sports experience, and I'm applying to the championship winning Golden State Warriors. So I was like, okay, any break I can get, like, you know. So he met up with the coach. He sent me the coach's email and told me to email my resume over. Now, at this point, I'd probably applied like 2 weeks ago. And so I sent the coach my resume, and within days, I heard from the coach like, oh, hey, you know, we like your resume. We're going to forward you over to the next phase. And I was like, oh, wow. Okay, it's happening. Like, okay. Yeah. So, you know, I did a couple rounds of interviews. And in my last round of interviews, I got an email saying that I would have 3 interviewers. So, you know, the interview panel was 3 people. I did my background research on all of them. I wrote notes on all of them. So that I could have a question to ask them at the end of it, just to show that, like, you know, I really want this opportunity and I'm going to do my research. Yeah. For some reason, I just had the inkling to do research on Steve Kerr, the head coach, and Bob Myers, the GM at the time. I didn't know I was going to see them. Something in me just told me to do it. So I get on this Zoom interview because this is end of 2021, beginning of 2022. So we're still pandemic. Okay. I get on the interview, and there's 4 people interviewing me. And the 4th person was Bob Myers, who was the GM of the Golden State Warriors at the time. So I'm there like, okay, like trying not to look, you know, flustered. So I'm flipping through my notes, and I had already done some research on Bob Myers. Something just told me to do it. I didn't know I was going to see him. Something just told me to do it. So in that interview, he asked me, what's your story? Now, I had never been asked that to that point in my life. I'm 22 years old, and I had never told my story before to anybody. Yeah. And so I was like, I took a deep breath, and I was like, okay, what is my story? And so I shared my experiences about how, you know, I grew up in a loving household, but I feel like sometimes I didn't feel love from my community. And that just really affected the way I grew up. And I feel like I kind of grew up early in a sense to how the world could be, because I had a lot of those experiences. And so I told him about that 7th grade teacher experience and how that literally lit a fire in me. And from that day forward, when I experienced that, I was like, I'm never going to let anyone tell me I can't do anything I want to do. And when he heard me say that, he was like, I could just see the passion in you talking about that story. And he was like, he made a joke. He was like, I feel like you should be going out and saving the world. Are you sure you want to be on the Warriors?
That's so cool.
And I was like, I mean, yes, I want the opportunity, of course. So I was like, of course I want to be here. But I shared with him after that I'd never shared my story before. And I never thought it was worth sharing because, again, I don't have any like rough, traumatic stories to share. And so I just never really thought I went through anything, quote unquote. And he told me that everyone's story is worth sharing and don't ever feel like your experiences are invalid. And so hearing that from Bob Myers, of all people, like, I'll literally never forget that. And I don't know if he knows how much that meant to me because I had never been told that up to that point. And so from that day forward, I was like, okay, like, don't be afraid to share your story. Like, don't be, I guess, be proud of the experiences that you have. And so I learned to be proud of my experiences, and not shelter my story just because I thought it wasn't worth telling.
Yeah.
So
And sometimes it's important for, sometimes when we're in those rooms and we're so young and we don't know, right? We don't know how these people think of us or what they're feeling for about us or anything like that. But when they say something to that kind of extent, they make such an impact in our lives, and sometimes we can't even say thank you. So this is your way of kind of saying thank you because he made such an impact.
yeah, and I know throughout my internship, like, I had opportunities to speak to him, and I let him know several times, like, how grateful I was. And so again, just, on here on this platform, like, saying thank you again, to that whole organization, everyone I worked with, everyone there really encouraged me, and that was like a once in a lifetime opportunity, obviously. And so, I think back to that imposter syndrome. I was experiencing that a little there because it was such a big break so fast. Like, this is 6 months into my sports journey and I'm working for the Warriors. Like, it was really overwhelming for me. And so I was like, am I supposed to be here? Do I deserve to be here?
Yeah.
Like, what did they see in me? And so I'm like questioning these things. And again, I had a great experience, but I feel like it held me back a bit. And so I look back at it now, 3 years later, and I'm like, okay, like, I wish I would have handled it differently, but can't go back. I can only change how I move forward.
Yeah.
So I do want to share one funny story.
Yeah, go ahead.
So a funny story when I was working with the Warriors. This is 2022, so this is the year they ended up winning the championship.
Oh, wow.
And if NBA fans remember that season, Curry got a foot injury and he was out for several weeks. And I was with the training staff during that time because I shifted departments. I started out with the coaching staff and then the front office staff, and then I ended with the training staff. And so Curry was injured, and so he was with the training staff all the time, and he wasn't traveling with the team. So there was a day that I was in at work, and there was like maybe 5 people there, like me, Curry, another player who was training, and then a couple training staff members. And, I'm working on a project. I had an analytics project I was working on, and I hear Paramore. And, I asked one of the training staff, I was like, is that your music? And he was like, no, that's Curry's music. I was like, that's Curry's music? I'm like, he listens to Paramore. And so I asked Curry about it. I was like, oh, you listen to Paramore? And he was like, yeah, I love them. And he told me that this was his White Boy Wednesday playlist. And so he was like, yeah, this is my White Boy Wednesday playlist. And I thought that was so hilarious. And he was like, oh, you like this music? And I was like, yeah, I listen to rock music too. And he was like, oh, that's what's up. But I say all that to say that I think what that experience taught me, and especially those few conversations that I did have with Curry, he's a super, humble person, super great individual. Not only is he, one of the greatest basketball players of all time, but he's also super humble. He asked me, where I was from and, how to pronounce my name. And just those little conversations were, it helped me realize that you could be in these spaces and be authentic and still make it.
Yes.
Because he's literally, again, one of the best players on the planet and has every reason to, fly his stuff, right? But again, I think seeing someone like that, treat me like anyone else, and he was like anyone else, that helped me, again, realize, because I think going into sports, I feel like I had this misconception that I had to put on a certain persona to be in this space. But just kind of having those experiences, I realized that you can be authentic and still make it really far. as long as you do it your way and you believe in the way that you're doing it and you work as hard as you possibly can, like, you can still make it and be yourself.
Yeah. Be real. Just be real.
Be
Just
real.
be the real you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Well, that's exciting. You know, you got some great, and I'm sure you met a bunch of players too in the NBA, and you know, especially for all my girlies, there's a bunch of jobs out there that you guys can be a part of. I think sometimes it gets just like, oh, there's so many men in the industry, right? But there is so many women now in the industry as well. So women in sports is such a big thing now.
Yes.
Yeah. With all those experiences, when we talked, you took a little bit of a step back when it came to sports and working in sports and kind of figuring things out. So what made you take that step back?
Yeah, so after my internship with the Warriors, I joined an organization named Team Inc. It's tech exposure and access through mentoring. And shout out to Team, Alexis and Q, and all the people with Team. They really help. They have given me invaluable experiences. I've been able to travel and teach sports analytics with them. So, side note, huge shout out to Team. If you guys are seeing this, you guys have helped me tremendously, more than you know. So I was working with them. I was also working with another organization where I was traveling and I was doing sports analytics on the high school level. And so I was traveling, doing the EYBL thing, and I was networking. I was meeting a ton of people. I'm going to try to keep this as kind of general, but like till the point as possible. Just because I just, don't want to get into too much detail, but I did have an opportunity. I had met someone within an organization. I thought I was going to have a really big break. So I had met with this person several times. I had connected to them through a connect of mine who I was working with, doing that high school analytics stuff. So they introduced me to a connection who was in a powerful position, who was able to give me an opportunity. I thought I was going to have an opportunity to just do something like, it would have been equivalent to like my Warriors opportunity. It would have been another huge break. So I met with this person about, what I would want to do, like what my strengths are. And I was supposed to meet with this person again. This is Summer League 2023. A few people close to me know the story, people who happen to like physically be around me at the time. But I went into that space for another meeting thinking like, hey, like, okay, like we're going to finalize, what I'm going to be doing. And the person kind of offered me the position in exchange for something inappropriate. And I feel like in that moment, it was just like, I was just heartbroken. And I'm 23 at the time. I'm looking for my next, big break in sports. And I think it really made me withdraw, because I had to get myself out of that particular situation, because there was really no one around me to help me. So after I got myself out of that situation, it was a really emotional period for me. And I spent the next several weeks thinking like, do I want to work in this space? Like, do I want to have to deal with this for the rest of my life if I'm going to choose to work in sports? So I spoke with some people close to me, and also simultaneously I'm in the Bay and I'm transitioning apartments. So there was a month where I didn't have an apartment. So I was fortunate enough to stay with the supervisor because I had nowhere to live. So I'm going through that, went through the summer league experience. I literally fly back from Vegas with no place to stay. And it was just really difficult. And I think I lost myself in that moment. So I ended up finding a place to stay with someone I had met my freshman year. She was my dance teammate.
Oh, nice.
I did major at dancing in college, and she was one of my dance teammates. So I ended up moving in with her. And then October, so that summer league experience was July of 2023. I ended up moving in with my friend August of 2023. And then by October, my car got broken into for a second time. So things were just snowballing for me. I wasn't super happy with the place I was living at either. And so it was just a lot. And I just felt like after riding on such a high,
Yeah.
everything just came crashing down. And I had a very emotional conversation with my mom where she told me to come home and reset because she felt uneasy about how uneasy I was. And so I made the really difficult decision because I thought I was going to be living in the Bay for the rest of my life outside of moving for sports work. And so I thought that that was going to be my new home. And because I told myself I didn't want to come back to Bakersfield, not because I don't love it here, but I just felt
it's the opportunity.
Yeah,
right?
the opportunity.
I say that all the time. So like I'm always like, I want to move to Vegas. Like we're not there yet. But and it's not because I just want to go and, you know, live in Vegas or I want to leave Bakersfield. I love Bakersfield. I literally, this is my home, born, raised, everything. It's the fact that sometimes as girls who have a little bit higher aspirations to want to be in those type of spaces, specifically the sports space or the entertainment space, there is no opportunity here, right? Sometimes that is what draws us back because we're like, we don't want to be somewhere where we don't have, like, there is nowhere, right? So it's having to force a way in almost. And it's hard because you want to live in a city or a town that already has those opportunities. And so coming back, I'm sure was hard mentally to be like, because I wanted to leave after, you know, when I was in high school and I couldn't because of other reasons. So for me, I feel like it was almost like you got to leave and then you came back and I'm like stuck in a circle and I can't leave, you know? So I'm sure it was really hard, but your mom was, you know, your motivation and like she was your like she pushed you, right?
It was a really tough conversation. She told me that ultimately it was my decision, but she could just see things falling apart for me. And not having family, like in LA, I have family in LA. So if I was to ever move to LA, I think she'd be a little less nervous. But I have zero family in the Bay Area. I don't have anyone who I can lean on. I was literally leaning on my community who I had built there.
Yeah.
And so when I felt like things were kind of falling apart a bit, I didn't really know how to like push through that. And I had to have the conversation with my roommate. I had just moved in. I'm like 3 months into this apartment, but I told her, I said, hey, I think January I'm going to have to call it and move back home. And she was like, yeah, I think I will too. So we both ended up moving back with our families. Wow. But it was a really tough decision. I had built, again, my community there. I was leaving my job. I was leaving all my college friends. I was leaving my network. Everything that I have built for the past 6 years, I was leaving behind. And it was really tough to do that. Ultimately, it was the right thing to do, though.
Yeah. And now you're here.
Now I'm here.
Now you're here. So tell us, I know we're getting close to time, but tell us a little bit about what you're doing here and what are you doing in the sports world here, because you are doing stuff here.
Yes. So pretty much all of 2024, I was just working. I was tutoring, and then late last year, I ended up getting a marketing job with Kern Community College District. And so I've been learning how to do marketing stuff. And I feel like that skill is super transferable into any space, including sports. Mm-hmm. And so March of this year, my mom went to an event, and the Bakersfield Majestics owner just so happened to be there, and she met him. And she called me and she was like, hey, did you know that there's a professional basketball team in Bakersfield? And I was like, where? Like, I've been looking for opportunities. Like, what are you talking about? And she was like, they're called the Bakersfield Majestics. I'll send you the info. And so she sent me that info. I connected with the team. I checked them out, went to one of their games. And I ultimately decided to work with them because it was a perfect transition back in. I'm at home. It's low stakes. And I get to feel comfortable and kind of retrain myself to be in that space again. Because it took a lot of mental undoing. Mm-hmm. Because after what I experienced, I just had every reason in the book not to go back into that space. So I had to learn to not let the past chain me down, but just take that lesson and build and move forward. And so I ended up working with the Majestics for the remainder of their 2025 season. And through there, I had met some players who kind of were saying the agent thing a little bit, like, have you kind of considered that? Or like, because, you know, you're doing a lot of stuff to help us out. And I was like, yeah, I did. Like, back in 2022, when I was working with the Warriors, I had a conversation with Bob Myers about him being an agent and then transitioning into the front office, because he has done both roles. And I was like, I don't know which one I want to do. And he said, do both. He was like, I did both.
Do
Like,
both. Girl, go do it.
Do
Go
it
do
all,
it. Go
right?
do it all.
And so agent had been on my mind for years. And I was like, this is the perfect opportunity. I'm in a space again where I'm like meeting players, and some of the players who play in the TBL like have gone to be in the G League. So, you know, I'm in a space with these guys again. And I just felt like, why not? Like, I needed to just stop making excuses and just start today.
Just do it.
Just start. You don't have to have the tools. I mean, we have the internet. You can literally learn how to do anything from your phone.
Yeah.
I did a ton of research. I reconnected with my contacts, which I was super nervous about, by the way, because I know it had been such a long time. And again, I'm all about building genuine connections in this space. And so I didn't want it to seem like, oh, hey, like, you know, can you help me out again? So I was really nervous about reconnecting. But, you know, I would just explain to people like, hey, you know, I took a step back. I'm getting back into it, and sharing my goals with people and saying like, you know, can I be mentored by you? Or like, you know, can we have a conversation? And like, you know, can I pick your brain about some things? And so I'm in the midst of the process of reconnecting with my network, and kind of rebuilding myself in this space.
Yeah, do it. I mean, and even like with me, when we went out to go, you know, take those opportunities. And I tell everybody, like, if there's something that you want to learn or you want to know more about, take the opportunity and ask. You never know.
Right.
It's just take your chance. So
I feel like opening my mouth and like saying what I want to do to people has led to so many connections. If I hadn't said on the bus that day, oh yeah, I applied to this Warriors internship, none of that would have ever happened.
yeah.
Like, I would have never had any of those remaining years of experience. And just once you put your mind towards something, like, everything aligns. So like, if you are focused on making it in sports, like, that's all you will see. That's all you will attract, and that's all you will become.
Yeah.
You have to focus on it, and things will align to you that you're focused on.
Yeah.
And that's one thing that I've had to learn is like, okay, let me put my focus on this. All the right things will align, and when the opportunity presents itself, I'll take it.
Yep. And you will. You're gonna go and do great things. So before we wrap up, I know that you wanted to share a little bit about what you've been doing, because you got to go to Summer League, and she was in Vegas, guys. Like, make sure you go and follow. You see all the basketball stories. So I know it's hard to get into Summer League. So, but tell us a little bit about that experience, because for anybody that knows what Summer League is, you want to share a little bit about what that is in the basketball world.
Yeah, so the NBA does like a summer tournament every year. It's called the NBA Summer League. And a lot of it is opportunity for like rookies or two-way players, G League guys, or other guys that they want to take a look at to play and just kind of they just want to check those guys out, basically. And so it's a way for teams to evaluate their talent and, you know, just test out different lineups. Sometimes they have guys from their NBA rosters who play in Summer League if they just want them to get more reps and just kind of get more experience. So it's pretty much like everybody in the basketball world is all in the same place at the same time. Like, if you want a networking opportunity, Summer League is like the probably single best opportunity for you, especially in basketball. I'll say particularly in basketball, right? The whole basketball world is in one place for those 2 weeks. So if you want an opportunity to network with people, there's GMs, owners, coaches, players just out and about, just available to speak with. And so I felt like, okay, if I want to get back into the space again, like, that's the perfect opportunity for me to reconnect. And the organization team that I mentioned earlier, they invited me to do an externship with them at Summer League. And so I was able to connect with some NBA like executives and coaches through them. And so again, reconnecting.
And I saw it on your stories, the behind the scenes of what they're doing with the analytics and all that. That's so cool.
Yes. And so I got that behind the scenes opportunity with team. That was an amazing opportunity. And again, just a full circle moment because Summer League of 2023 was like kind of my last thing that I did in sports. And so coming back into it and having a different experience and making it my own. I was able to meet Rich Paul there, right? Like one of the best basketball agents in the game, right? If not the best agent. And so that was an amazing experience being able to go there and kind of redeem my Summer League experience, so to speak.
That's good.
And, see people again, meet new people. I felt really good in that space. So it was an amazing opportunity.
That's awesome. Well, I'm glad and I'm excited to see what is to come. I'm sure we'll be doing a little bit more of this. I actually like this little girly talk. I don't know. Like Rubio is watching in the background, but I really have enjoyed it. And, is there anything else that you want to share? And then before that, after that, if you want, feel free to like thank anybody for just giving you an opportunity.
Yeah, I just have some like final notes that, I really want to express the importance of authenticity, your character, and having humility. I think speaking with people in the sports space, I feel like those characteristics get undervalued, but I notice the people who make it the furthest are the people with those things. You have to be authentically yourself, even if that looks different than anything you've seen before, which is scary to be yourself if you've never seen it before. But trust me, it will pay off. Like being yourself, having character. You want people to speak highly of you when you're not in the room. And so you want to make sure you present yourself in the best way possible. And then just being humble in those spaces too.
Yeah.
No matter what position you're in, like, just remember it's not hard to be kind, right? It's not hard to be kind to people. And so I think those are super important. I think for women, I want to express the importance of like being fierce in that space, being fierce, being confident, and owning the room. And I'm saying this to myself.
Say it to yourself.
Yes, I'm saying this to myself, but I think what I've noticed with the women who have made it in this space, I actually saw a quote, agent Nicole Lynn. She's an NFL agent. I've been following her story because her and I are in the same sorority, Delta Sigma Theta.
So crazy.
So I connected with her story very early on. She posted something on her Instagram recently that said, I made it as a woman in this space because I have the audacity of a man.
She is so inspiring. And if you guys don't know her, you need to go check her out. But she's such an inspiration. Like, same thing when I saw her, I'm like, damn, she's a bad bit. Like, sorry. And I'll beep it out myself. But I was like, if she can do it, like, what makes it seem that we can't?
Exactly.
Why can't we? Yeah.
Exactly. And so I think that quote that I just saw literally a couple weeks ago really stuck with me. Like, as a woman having the audacity of a man, that's like really powerful. You have to be as assertive and bold as men are in that space and don't feel like you have to shrink for anyone. And again, I'm telling myself this, but I think for young women out there, don't be afraid to assert yourself in the space. There is a line between, assertiveness and, being rude, but you find that balance. If you're gracious and assertive, it will go a long way.
Yeah.
I think my other thing. Okay.
Go ahead.
Also, just want to say, like, don't let anyone stop you. Don't let anyone tell you you cannot do what you set out to do. I think if I allowed people to tell me, if I believed the people who told me I couldn't make it, I wouldn't be here. So for any woman out there who feels like, I don't think I can do it, you literally can do it. You have to shift your mindset. A lot of it is unlearning what society teaches you.
Yeah.
And I'm in the transition period of unlearning a lot of what I have learned being a woman of color. Unlearning those habits that make me insecure, that make me shrink in those spaces. Once you unlearn those things and you rewire your mindset, like, things will change. So I promise to the young women out there, along with myself, that all you have to do is unlearn those habits, align yourself with people who are what you seek out to be, and things will change for you. I promise.
Yeah, for sure. We said we're both going to make it. So
yes,
in a couple years, we will be living it up. But
yeah, exactly.
In a humble way, guys. In a humble way. Because I still want to give it. Yes,
of
because I still want to give you guys everything. So any last words? Anybody you want to thank?
First of all, thank you to my parents. Again, like, I can't underestimate the value of growing up in a loving household. Like, my parents and my family mean the world to me and have given me the foundation to continue through the adversity that I face. So definitely thank you to my parents. Thank you to all of my school teachers who gave me the little boost that I needed.
Thank you to all the teachers, my best friends in the studio, actually. So thank you, because she's a special ed teacher, and it takes a very good heart. My aunt is a teacher. I come from a family of teachers, and you guys don't understand, like, how important those teachers are. I always say I just can't. I would never be able to teach. But for those that are out there, especially all those teachers, you guys make such an impact on these kids, and you can really, really make a difference.
I definitely don't want it to be undervalued, the power of a teacher, because the teachers who did encourage me literally changed my life. So thank you to all my teachers. Hopefully some of them remember me. Hopefully some of them recognize my name. I have a really unique name. So if you were ever my teacher and you're seeing this, like, please know that I love you. Thank you to everyone who I met in college, my college friends, all the people who I worked with, team. Already shouted them out, but thank you to Alexis and Q. Thank you to everyone within the Warriors organization I was working with. Nick Uren, he was with the Warriors at the time. He was my direct supervisor, and I want to thank him. He stays in touch with me, so I definitely want to give him a shout out. He's with the Phoenix Mercury now, but I want to give him a shout out and tell him thank you. Just thank you to all my friends and family. I think everyone, you guys know who you are. All of my college friends, I love you all. I think everyone who I've met along the way, I think people don't understand, like, how much you can impact someone's life just by being kind and encouraging. So anyone who encouraged me along the way takes a village. So the person who I am today is because of everyone around me. So thank you to everyone around me.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Thank you for coming. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, this has been in the works. I'm so excited because, it's different to see another woman in sports, and it's encouraging. So I always say, like, we got to lift each other up, not bring each other down. Yes. So if we're in those spaces, why not be in the spaces together? And I think that's important, especially as women of color. We just, we got to keep pushing. Yes. We also have a seat at the table. So thank you, because you motivated me a little bit. So I'm like, we're going to get there. So I appreciate it. And I thank you. And we'll see each other at the basketball 3-on-3, guys. If you didn't sign up, I think we got like 10 teams, so there's only 6 more spots left. So just letting you all know. But thank you all for watching. We can't wait for you guys to keep continuing to support, and thank you for everything that you guys do. But don't forget to, now it's my turn, don't forget to like and subscribe. Please subscribe on YouTube, guys. Subscribe. Thank you.
Thank you.